If you really want to know, you must be willing. If you are willing to apply yourself, there is a way to know. In my life, it's a living reality. The last 3 lifetimes for me are in the same place, same work, to some extent same way.
In the jungles of Raigarh district, Madhya Pradesh, there is an old tree that stands tall even to the present day, as a witness to an event that happened about 400 years ago, which changed the destiny of a young man called Bilva, and in turn, a million more lives. Bilva. This is what Sadhguru was called 4 lifetimes ago. And this is the story of a man who is no less than miracle. This is the story of a being who is a phenomenon in himself. This is the story of a man becoming divine.
Disclaimer. Before questioning on the authenticity of the information in this video, please read chapter 3 from the book Sadhguru More Than a Life or the last chapter from the book Death and Inside Story. Hello viewers, welcome to Life Tricks. What you are about to see is the story of Sadhguru's past life. After his enlightenment on the hills of Chamundi, within 5 years, Sadhguru was able to retrieve almost all the memories of his past life from his subconscious. During his yoga programs, as a precursor for the creation of Dhyanalinga, Sadhguru revealed his past life stories to his closest disciples. Details of the same are mentioned in his biography, Sadhguru More Than a Life, and his book Death and Inside Story. In the year 1996, in the middle of Dhyanalinga creation, Sadhguru decided to trace his past life. Though Sadhguru had the vivid memories of the past life, he had no idea where he was going. He was only following his intuitions and guiding the driver. Finally, they reached a small village of Madhya Pradesh. There was a tree. Even after 400 years have passed, it still stood there as a witness to bondage, love, hatred, and awareness. It is from here the story unfolds. A 400-year-old Raigarh district, now in Madhya Pradesh, there lived a snake charmer, Bilva, a tall, well-built, fearless young man full of life. He was a rebel by birth, an arrogant rule breaker. He was too wild to fit into the society. Society couldn't withstand this. At the same time, Bilva was a Shiva devotee. He loved snakes. Bilva belonged to a tribe of snake charmers who were also fortune tellers. They used to sing songs in early mornings in the streets. They traveled from place to place. They were peace-loving people. Money and wealth had no meaning in their lives. For Bilva, love meant more than his life. He always thought from the heart, not from the mind. At the times caste system was at its peak, he fell in love with a Brahmin girl, Shambhavi. It was from here his life destined to have a tragic ending. Bilva and Shambhavi's love made the upper caste people furious, and their anger turned upon Bilva's whole clan. To protect his people from the anger of the society, he moved them to Sambalpur, which is now in modern-day Orissa. But this was not the only reason. In Sambalpur, there was a Mukteshwar temple of his beloved Shiva. This did not stop two young lovers from meeting. Bilva knew villages, fields and forest inch by inch, so the lovers started meeting secretly there. But this secret didn't remain a secret for long. Shambhavi's family and community found out about this. They threatened Bilva in various ways, but nothing mattered for a 27-year-old fearless Bilva. He literally knew no fear. He was planning to elope with the girl he loved. Shambhavi's family decided to end this somehow. Shambhavi's uncle took the help of a local king. They came to know a secret meeting two lovers had planned on a full moon day in the jungle. Shambhavi's family used this secret meeting as a trap. A group led by her uncle were hiding in the forest. Bilva was unaware of this and came for the meeting. Before he could understand what was going on, all the men from Shambhavi's community surrounded him and tied him to a tree. They let loose one of his own snakes on him. Shambhavi stood there beside his lover as a helpless witness for all this horror. The cobra bit him. Snake's venom started passing through Bilwa's veins, thickening the blood. Within few minutes, poison was all over his body. He could feel his lungs collapsing. Breathing became difficult, and intolerable pain was rising. At that moment, Bilwa saw those people who did this to him. They were enjoying his painful death, so he decided not to give them the pleasure of watching him die. He started watching his breath as death was approaching him. Within a moment, Bilwa fell down. He left his body in full awareness. For him, it was no more a tragic death, it was a graceful exit. Shambhavi stood there, weeping in great agony beside the dead body of the man she loved, Bilwa the snake charmer. Lovers were separated, Bilwa's life ended, but the story didn't end there. Creation had more to tell. This explains the deep connection Sadhguru has with snakes since his childhood. Sadhguru still has the birthmark of snake bite as a legacy of past life on his shoulder. It is also revealed by Sadhguru that Shambhavi also reincarnated as Bharati, Sadhguru's close disciple in present life. As we saw, Bilwa left his body in full awareness. As a result of this, when Bilwa was born again, he was born as a spiritual seeker. He was Shiva Yogi. Shiva Yogi was born in a Telugu-speaking family. He travelled from place to place and lived a life of suffering and hunger. But his sadhana was intense and severe. It had the touch of venom from previous birth. Sadhguru recalls this lifetime as a lifetime of painful and heartbreaking punishment that Shiva Yogi imposed on himself. Shiva Yogi spent most of his time on the mountains of Vellayanagiri. He died at a very young age of 25. Shiva Yogi was born again third time. This lifetime also, people called him Shiva Yogi. This time, he achieved mastery over the occult science, achieved many states of samadhi through intense sadhana. Because of this, a large number of people became his followers. But after all these achievements and intense sadhana, Shiva Yogi was still far away from enlightenment. It was a very painful moment in Shiva Yogi's life, and his heart was about to break. He also decided to leave the body and search for the ultimate. It is in such a time his Guru appeared. One day when Shiva Yogi sat meditating on the mountains, a yogi came that way. He was none other than Palaniswami. He saw Shiva Yogi, and within a moment he saw his pain and longing for enlightenment. Shiva Yogi was a Shiva devotee. Palaniswami knew this. He knew Shiva Yogi will not accept anything that comes from anyone other than Shiva. Out of his compassion, he appeared in front of Shiva Yogi as Adiyogi himself. Shiva Yogi saw this and he surrendered completely to him. Palaniswami then placed his walking stick on Shiva Yogi's forehead. That was it. Shiva Yogi attained enlightenment. Suffering of his lifetimes ended. After this, Guru Palaniswami went on his way without saying a word. Guru and disciple never met again in their lifetime after this meeting of few minutes. There was more than this. Palaniswami identified Shiva Yogi as the person suitable for the creation of Dhyanalinga and transferred the whole complex technology of Dhyanalinga creation when he placed his walking stick on Shiva Yogi's forehead. Dhyanalinga was the dream of many yogis. Thousands of yogis had tried and failed. It was nearly impossible project that would free the whole humanity. Creation of Dhyanalinga was not an easy task. Lives of people who attempted it always ended in tragedy. It needed participation of large number of men and women in an intense spiritual practice. Society didn't accept it. They opposed Shiva Yogi in all possible way. Despite his vigorous effort, Shiva Yogi failed to fulfill his Guru's dream. He died at the age of 57. But his mission didn't end there. Sadhguru says if his Guru didn't had given him the responsibility of Dhyanalinga, he would have attained Mahasamadhi in the lifetime of Shiva Yogi itself. There wouldn't be a Jaggi Vasudev. but to only fulfill his Guru's dream, he had to come back 2 more times. Shiva Yogi knew if he was not able to fulfill his Guru's will in this lifetime, he had to take birth again and start again. There was no escape for him. So, in the early part of 20th century, he came back, now as Sadguru Sri Brahma. He was a fiery yogi. Born in Telugu-speaking family, he started sadhana at an early age and acquired great siddhis. It was the time of British rule in India, also the time of World War II. British had prohibited crossing the tracks of nearby railway station in Kunur. Sri Brahma was living in an ashram at that time. He did what was prohibited. He crossed the railway tracks. When British police saw this, they immediately arrested him. Sri Brahma walked through the locked prison gate. News of this miracle spread like a wildfire throughout the Nilgiri region. It created a large number of disciples. Sri Brahma was an arrogant, ungodly man. He often abused gods. A huge crowd was gathered near Ooty Lake to listen to him. Crowd became furious after hearing such comments from Sri Brahma. When the situation became out of control and was turning into violence, Sri Brahma called a 11-year-old boy from the crowd and placed his hand on boy's head and asked him to walk on the lake. To crowd's astonishment, the boy walked on the lake. Everyone became silent in a moment. By these kind of miracles, Sadguru Sri Brahma's followers grew day by day. He was not nice to people. They were afraid of him for his anger. At the same time, they couldn't stop loving him. Sri Brahma established 70 ashrams wherever he went across Tamil Nadu in a very short span of time. Finally, he reached Coimbatore and started with the only aim of his life. Sri Brahma did whatever he could do to establish Dhyanalinga. When people from orthodox society saw men and women in intense proximity, their anger turned against Sri Brahma. Sri Brahma was thrown out of Coimbatore. With violent anger, Sri Brahma walked for several days. One of his loyal disciples, Vibhuti, also walked along with him. It was not easy for him to match his Guru's speed. Whenever they passed any village, Vibhuti would collect the provisions from the villagers and cooked food for his Guru. Once his Guru went into meditative state, he would quietly go there and keep the food in front of him. And hiding in a faraway place, he would watch his Guru eating the food. He had to do all this in between Sadguru's speedy walk. This made his tasks even more difficult. But Vibhuti always took care not to increase the fury of his master, who was already in a raging anger. Guru and disciple walked day and night relentlessly and finally reached a place Kadapa, which is now in Andhra Pradesh. There they took a shelter in small Someshwar temple. Sri Brahma chose this place since his Guru Palani Swami had spent some time in this temple in his lifetime. Here they were not welcomed well because the temple priest and his assistants couldn't adjust to the intensity of their presence. Here both Guru and disciple plotted a plan for 6 months. It was a plan for next lifetime. If they failed to establish Dhyanalinga in this lifetime, they wanted to make sure in next lifetime at least there shouldn't be any impediments to Dhyanalinga creation. They selected more than 2 dozens of people. A plan was made so that in next lifetime where exactly they should be born, what skills they should acquire. This time Sri Brahma wanted to place them in such families from where there was much opposition to the creation of Dhyanalinga. He thought if the people from such families are themselves involved in the creation, there will not be much resistance. It was later revealed by Sadguru that Vibhuti was none other than the past life of Bharati, who was also Shambhavi in the lifetime of Bilva. Whatever the plan may be, it was obvious that creation of Dhyanalinga will have its own impediments. Everything was set, but Sri Brahma anyhow wanted to fulfill his Guru's will as soon as possible in this lifetime only. As a desperate act to fulfill his Guru's dream, he made a final attempt. In the western India, in the Vajreshwari ashram, there was a Balayogi, Sadananda. He had attained enlightenment at the age of 11. He had spent 3 years in Samadhi after that. Sadananda had just left his body at the age of 26. When Sri Brahma came to know this, he didn't want to miss the opportunity. Sadananda's body was carefully prepared body because of his sadhana at an early age. Sri Brahma went inside Balayogi's body. At the same time, he stayed in two bodies. His plan was to prepare few loyal disciples who can fulfill his Guru's dream. But Sri Brahma only got disappointment. Situation here was also no different than that of Coimbatore. Disappointed, Sri Brahma left the body of Balayogi and returned to his own, and started preparing for his own departure at the age of 42. Another lifetime failed. It seemed like Palaniswami's dream would remain as a dream only. Sri Brahma knew the reason for failure, his lack of social skills. He still wanted to check whether there was anything wrong in his energies. He went back to Velayangiri, ascended the seventh hill, and left his body through all 7 chakras. Such a person is called Chakreshwara. Such an act was done by Shiva himself. It is said that even today, energy there is still alive. Before ascending the 7th hill, he stopped the disciples following him at the foothills and announced, "I will be back." He kept the promise. He came back as Jaggi Vasudev. Though everything was planned in the lifetime of Sri Brahma, it was not an easy task for Sadguru to create Dhanalinga. He says, "This time I civilized myself to handle the society properly, which Sri Brahma lacked." After several hardships, Sadguru was able to establish Dhanalinga in this lifetime. Sadguru have said this is his last life and he will never return again, since his purpose is fulfilled. He will also ascend the 7th hill for one last time and he will be no more. So this was the story of 4 past lives of Sadguru. Thanks for watching.